that. Not here, but at home. She's just over the hill. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm John Miglosh for the WDMA. We scour the world for marketing and mail news every day. I like that one. That one's pretty good. Okay, let's dig right in. I know you're anxious to see what I cooked up for the day. And here we go.
Do you really think this is the right thing for us to be doing, Ivanna?
What will people think?
Let them talk.
Donald.
Ivanna. It's wrong, isn't it?
But it feels so right.
Then it's a deal?
Yes, we eat our pizza the wrong way.
Crust first.
Introducing stuffed crust pizza from Pizza Hut. With a ring of cheese baked into a totally new, thinner crust, you'll want to eat it the wrong way. Crust first.
May I have the last slice?
Actually, you're only entitled to half.
Large.
So Ivanna passed away yesterday, and so that's in honor of Ivanna Trump. And, people forget that Donald Trump was very well loved. He made fun of himself a lot. He ran The Apprentice for, I think, 14 seasons, and they could never get a replacement for him. And everybody kind of loved him. He was in Home Alone 2 and other cameos all over the place. And, people forget that. And it's amazing what media can do to someone that they decide isn't who they want him to be. Anyway, so that's in honor of Ivanna. And let's go on. Let's see what we got. Okay, so here's an article. It was like the last week and a half or so since the 4th of July. It's been kind of a dearth of direct mail articles. So I thought I would dig into some today. All of a sudden, there was a bunch of them. Now, maybe the world has changed. Okay, this is from Jim Richard. I think Jim's attended some of the WDMA live stream or live meetups. And because I remember him telling us about some of this stuff. This is for campaigns, whether you're at the top of the ticket or at the bottom of the ballot. I like that. Here's some tips, and these apply equally to businesses too, of course. Okay, the first is use informed delivery. And in last year's gubernatorial election in Virginia, 41% of surveyed voters said they were more likely to open political mail after seeing it in informed delivery. And that may be people who already read their informed delivery. I have it, but I don't read it. And then they always put in these statistics: 48 million national informed delivery subscribers with an open rate of 67% of users. So, and I don't know if that's, I don't think that's such a high rate. I doubt if that's an open rate of every email, every day's email gets 67% on average. It's probably more likely that they take, a 30-day unique user average. How many users open it at least once in the past week or the past month or something like that, because that seems really, really high. But that's 2/3 of 48 million, which is like 32 million, something like that, right on the button. Which is still, a minuscule fraction. Well, it's about 1/3 of the households, of the 100 million households in America. But anyway, it's still worth doing because you can do it for free. You can tack on informed delivery. You can put banner ads in it. You get a 4% postal discount. So it's worth doing. I mean, why not do it, right? That's the way I look at it. And put a click-through on it. Put a response device. You can give a special response device so that when they click your mailing, without opening it, without going to the mailbox, they can do that. I have almost never seen those on informed delivery. I look at it every now and then. They're getting to be more common. Every now and then you'll see one now. Back 2 years ago, you didn't see them at all, and 4 years ago, that was all just scans. Anyway, red tag 57 is something like Heinz 57, is something I didn't know about. This alerts the Postal Service that this is political mail, so it's super important because they understand that they are a politically funded entity. Well, not really. Their funding comes from the stamps and the postage, but their pension plan and other things, and their organizational structure and all kinds of stuff comes from the politicians. So they know that they better deliver the political mail. This is not something that is available to businesses, as far as I know. And then the other thing that you can use is informed visibility. And with informed visibility, my understanding, and if anybody out there wants to correct me, that's great. We'll have you on the show. But my understanding of informed visibility is that it alerts the mail processor. Okay, so you take you say to your mailing person, your printer probably, you say, I'd like to do a mailing, and they say, would you like us to coordinate an email campaign when it gets delivered to make sure you look at it? And you say, sure. And now it'll cost you a little bit extra, a couple of cents, maybe a nickel, and per piece. And you say, okay, I'd like that. And so what happens is that mailer participates in informed visibility, and every person that's getting that mailer, that they have that we also have their email. I don't know quite how this works exactly. I know some printers, and maybe I should get with Keith Lawson or Paul Lawson, and they can explain it. We'll interview those guys. I haven't ever had them on my show, but they'll explain how this works. But they told me what they can do is do a mailing, and informed visibility can notify them that the piece has been delivered to specific individual households. Now, if you already have the email, or if you don't, you can get it usually, but it's not 100%. It's more like half. You can send an email when it gets delivered so that they'll go and look at it. So you can coordinate and time follow-up email. You can also do it with social media, which is, pretty amazing. Okay. I'm not sure the boost that you get from that, but anyway, Jim Richards is a 25-year postal employee with 35 years of sales and marketing. So we're going to reach out to Jim and see if he can fix this, my explanation of this. Could have written a longer article, of course, Okay, mailers are not dead. 3 reasons mailers aren't dead, by Michael Plummer, who's president and CTO of Our Town America, which is a new mover marketing franchise. So when you move to a new town, they'll send you coupons for the florist or the dentist or the chiropractor or whatever it is you might need. And you get a package of coupons and a greeting, like that. Okay, direct mail marketing remains a reliable, evolving tool to help small businesses generate profits. Okay. And this is Michael. Okay. And then they got a bunch of statistics, which I don't ever quite buy into. But 3 reasons mail is alive and kicking. One is to combat digital overload, and he cites a study by Vision Direct that basically says we spend 44 years of, if you live to 60, you spend 44 years of your life staring at a screen. Okay, and I'm probably above that. It's like 17 hours a day. It only leaves you like 7 hours of sleep. I get more sleep than that, I think. But anyway, quite a bit. So there's a lot of Zoom fatigue, and direct mail can help alleviate that. There's less competition. In my work, I've gotten 2 pieces of mail, I think, this week. Trying to think back. I know I got those 2, one from the rescue mission and one from the Tall Pines. But I don't know if I've even gotten any other ones. So I'm open for business. You might want to mail me. I mean, people have just, boy, oh boy, oh boy. You get attention. I think I was Wednesday. I got those 2 mailing pieces, and I still remember what they were. Try to ask me what digital ads I've seen besides the Ivanka Trump Pizza Hut one. Okay, so mail is down so that you got more room in the mailbox, and you can get unique discounts. You can get a discount for using informed delivery. You can get a discount for offering tactile, sensory, or interactive. There was American Express has been, yeah, here it is. I keep it. I saw this mailing piece a couple of months ago, and it has a varnish on it, and it gets your attention a little bit. It's just a little bit of spot varnish, like a background, and probably they got the discount for that. See that? Cool, huh? and it got my attention, and they've kept on doing it. That's about the fifth one I've gotten. So adding texture, embossing, crinkly paper, visual effects, holographic paper, paper infused with scents. Okay, and I noticed that brand that I can't remember brand. Anyway, Chris Lyon's publication has an article on scents, but it isn't very common. I know Amazon Graphics, Mary England, up there in the cold north, said that they developed a whole campaign for a perfume company with different scents embedded in their mailing. It's possible to do. Personalize it, target your customers. And Michael mentioned specific customer demographics. Now, when you're doing local new movers, that makes some sense because you're targeting neighborhoods around a city. But for the most part, be real careful to assume that because you can tell somebody what demographics you want, that both you're going to get those demographics and that those people have interest in mail. Oftentimes, it's much better to get people that have a similar hobby or interest or industry if it's business to business. So I was talking to a mailer or a prospective client the other day about how we would prospect for a new industrial safety product. And they were talking about the number of employees and the job titles, and those make some sense. But you don't even need to buy job title. You can just slug it on there, and oftentimes it's as effective or more effective, especially in prospecting with business to business. If you put plant manager on it, it's more likely to get to the right person than if you try to rent the plant manager by person's name, because those lists are a couple of years out of date and people move around. And so if you say, I'm going to mail it to Mike Smith, plant manager, and Mike Smith's still there, but now he's the CEO, it might go to Mike, but now that's not relevant to his job. And so one of the number one reasons that people don't respond in B2B is that they've changed job responsibilities. The mailer gets to the right person, but the right person isn't the right person. So job titles often are as good or better, especially in your older names. When a name, when someone hadn't bought from us for 2 years, I think, we would give them a call and say, do you still want this? Do you still do this kind of stuff? Oh, yeah, we do, but I'm not the guy in charge anymore. And then they would tell us who. Okay, so anyway, be careful with demographics. Oftentimes, much better to rent lists that have bought a related product, like a safety product, not your product, because they won't allow. And it's very well regulated. I decide whether you get to use my list. So you send me a sample of what you want to mail, and I approve it. Sometimes the list manager approves it, but usually it's the client who approves it, the mailing list owner. And so, you can't. Well, you can, and sometimes people do approach direct competitors, and they will exchange lists. They'll say, well, I've mailed these people 2 years, they haven't responded. I'll let you mail these. If you let me mail mine. Land's End doesn't let anybody rent their list unless they have a list to trade. Something to think about, right? Okay, all of these little things are things that very, very few marketers know, even in the direct mail business. Everybody, the lazy, easy way is to just say, oh, give me all the companies with 15 to 25 employees, and I want anybody with an individual plant manager or something. And you can rent those lists. They just might not be any good. They probably are out of date and not accurate. Okay, I'm giving you a lot of tips here. And then lastly, Michael says, track. I would say test. And this is the difference between tracking and testing is 180 degrees. Okay, it's completely different to say I'm going to test than I'm going to track. You have to track to test, but you don't have to test if you track. That's the trouble. And so tracking is trying something, seeing how it does, trying something, seeing how it does. But unless you figure out a way to go head to head, like QR code would be a great example. Send your mailing piece out. Send even in a small mailing, you can say, well, I'm going to send the even numbered zips. I'm going to send, that'd be probably dangerous in a small mailing. In a large mailing, we might take the even numbered third digit of the zip code. We don't want to do the end digit because the zeros sometimes are better zip codes. They're special zip codes. So if you take just the evens, you get into trouble. How do I know? Or you can take, you could take the even numbered, like middle digit of the carrier route or something. There's a lot of ways you can do it. But put a QR code on those. Don't put a QR code on the others. See the difference. That's a test. If you just say, well, last time we didn't do a QR code and this time we did and we got a better response, there could be almost an infinite number of variables that cause that to happen. Or we got a worse response. So QR codes are bad. No, it doesn't. It's like comparing the 95 Bears to the 67 Packers. You can if you want, but you can't. That's tracking. You can say, well, here's all the results. Here's what they did. They both won the Super Bowl. We kept track. That's not the same as a test. Okay, you got that? Now, lastly, and in that same spirit, I'll go over to Craig Huey, and Craig has a point to make: the power of a direct mail generated name. And what he says, he did a split test, and he said direct mail generated names produce 66% higher response than online generated names. And I just reconnected with one of my favorite clients, and one of the big things we found was that their online generated customers, they generated a lot of online generated customers, especially in fourth quarter for Christmas gifts. And what we found was that, looking at previous results, was that those names were almost for sure they weren't just not worth mailing, they were some of the worst names we mailed, worse than the rented lists. And so Craig's right that they often have a significantly worse response. But you can also find, as we did with another client who was doing influencer marketing, and we compared those digitally generated names, customers, with regular customers, and they were worth only 25% in the next 6 months or the next year. So, you take the names that were generated in one calendar year, all the names, because it wasn't that big a client, and then you say, well, how did they do the next year? It's not lifetime value. It's very, very simple. Anybody with a computer can pretty much do this, or we can help you. And we said, okay, so how much were they worth the second year? And we compared online generated with not online. And the profitability of the online was 4 times greater. No, profitability of the direct mail generated with a catalog was 4 times greater in the second year as it was in the first. And part of it was the mail cost, is that we were mailing people that just weren't worth mailing. So again, keep that in mind. You want to start, and you can test mail generated versus not mail generated, and you can test mail generated responders versus compiled lists. Compiled lists are the geodemographic lists that are easy to order, but have this pitfall that and there. I talked about an article the other day, last week I think, where the guy was doing financial seminars, and he was using mail to generate attendees at these dinners. And he said, I want the kind of client that makes a decision based on a mailer. He said, the online decision-making process is, I see an ad and then I go search around. He said, I don't want people that are going and searching around. Not that they can't. Of course they can. But I'd rather have somebody that's capable of making an informed quality decision and taking my advice. Something to think about. So the direct mail generated buyer has a higher level of trust for you. He knows, or she knows, that it's not trivial putting a piece of mail putting a piece together and putting it in the mail. It's costly. It's way more costly than an email or a Facebook ad where you can do it for $5 and you can test it. Okay, it's way more costly, right? Just to try it. So that gives you more credibility. It's probably not as much as the storefront that's sitting there, but it is way more credibility. And so there's a level of trust, plus it's in the physical world. So there's there's a sensory level of engagement. All of those things combine to make the mail order buyer trust you more. And that's not insignificant. So thanks for that, Craig. Have a great day. Like and share. Your friends will know.